Hello everybody, this is your friendly, really damn weird neighbor, Rufus. So, you guys have probably been wondering where the hell I went for the past week. Honestly, I had something really awesome happened. I had gone to my aunt's house to earn some extra cash because, well, I wasn't aware of this yet. Once I found out, I was actually very happy about the coincidence. Turns out that the next coming weekend, once I got back, was going to be getting back home, I was going to be going to Comic-Con. You all may not exactly be aware of this, but believe it or not, Comic-Con happens in more than one place. Comic-Con itself, oddly enough, happens in multiple states. I went to the Lexington, Kentucky Comic-Con this passing weekend. I basically had already had all my clothes pre-washed, cleaned, and already stuffed back in my bag for the trip back home. So I didn't even have to take any of my clothes out of my suitcase, and I pretty much could just straight up go to the con with my other aunt to basically go to do the trip to the Lexington, Kentucky Comic-Con. This building was oddly enough bigger than the last one was for the last one that I'd went to. We make the trek there to the convention. It takes us a couple hours, and once we get there, we give out the car to a concierge because finding a parking spot at that moment that we'd gotten there was basically impossible. Every floor was basically full of vehicles for people that were probably wanting to go to the con. So we gave the keys to the concierge so that they could find a spot for us when available, and then we pretty much just went straight into the convention. So we eventually do make our way into the building, which is really not that far away, and we come to realize there's a bunch of people in this place right now, like thousands already, just that day. This was Saturday, by the way. Saturday was the biggest day of the convention. But the first thing I do before I do anything else is I go to the food court, because at this point I'm hungry, I haven't ate lunch yet. Let me just tell you, the food there was quite expensive. This was little more than cafeteria food. Don't get me wrong, it was on the higher end of the cafeteria food scale. I'm not sure if it was quite worth $15 to $16 off the bat for basically a bag of basically a walking taco. It was nachos using kettle chips, I'm pretty sure. It was pretty good, but still not worth 15 bucks. It was not worth 15 bucks. The first place we get to is basically the vendor room, where people are selling their crafts and their wares. Believe me when I say this was awesome. There was this one guy in basically a giant custom Warhammer knight costume. I loved that. There we go. Here's a picture for you of me posing with the knight buddy. Oddly enough, throughout the convention, I only spent I bought a bunch of comics. If you guys don't remember, there was this old game series, these two games called The Darkness, from like back in 2008. And I've ever since I played the second game, I wanted to get my hands on the comics to see where the games originated from, because the games were based off of comics that came out in the past. And lo and behold, I managed to somehow find a vendor selling horror comics with a bunch of the darkness in it. So I just ended up. I'm just gonna show them to you. I have a bunch of. No, I paid straight up $30 for this stack of comics. Every single one except for one of the Darkness comics. Let me see if I can't. So as you can tell, I've got this big old stack of comics. Big old stack of the Darkness comics. But little did I know, they had the first Darkness, the volume 1 of the Darkness. I got both the raw cover. I don't think it's basically just a black and white version. Oh wait, yeah, basically just black and white. But I also have the color version. The background blur is wanting to be really weird. Could have sworn I turned that off, but both the colored and the black and white versions. But after walking around that first day, believe it or not, we went back into the vendor room both on the first and the last day. But I didn't buy anything on the last day. We wander around the convention, and eventually we all split up. And at some point, I try to meet up with my aunt and uncle. I get to the room they're in, but I can't find them. Little did I know, my uncle was saving a seat for me all the way at the front. Oddly enough, several big-name actors, believe it or not, popped in. One of them being the actor that played Moff Gideon in The Mandalorian.
Yeah. You know what to do. And if you can, it's free for the most.
Not only was he there, but there was also one or two other Star Wars actors. I could not remember their names for the life of me. You're probably going to have to look that up yourself, guys, because I have no idea. So, oddly enough, despite one of the actors being kind of a spurg, I had a good time with that. I had a good time listening to about their stories. By the time we were leaving, a little while before we ended up leaving, we actually encountered a couple of guys in Sesame Street alien costumes.
Hello.
Out of all of, even past the guy with his fancy 3D printed Warhammer armor, I honestly thought these were the most charming. I mean, they were probably really cheaply made, and yet I can't help but feel like, oddly enough, I out of all the costumes I've seen, those were the ones that stuck with me, only because they actually kind of got in character, you know, guys doing it. We saw a bunch of stuff while we were there, but at the end of the day, I had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of fun. I'm glad to have gotten the clips of those actors, because you don't often actually manage to get actual footage of the actors' thoughts. Like that one guy that ended up basically being locked out of the toilet after he'd passed out really tired in I can't remember where he said he was, but it was there around the studio.
And Carrie, she knew that I fell asleep. She saw that happen because she was in the same seat. And she managed to talk George Lucas and the director, Richard Marquand, into leaving me asleep because I needed it, she said. So here we are. I'm fast asleep, and all the stunt guys, when they were knocked out, they were replaced by a dummy and then knocked out again. So they were really not happy with me. And then they kept on filming, and I'm dead, I'm done. And cut a long story short, then they cut and they wrapped it all up, and they didn't wake me up. So the night falls and it starts getting cold, and wild animals like big bears were making a lot of noise. That's what woke me up. So here I am, and I go, shit, what's going on? They left me behind. So I get to the porta cabin to get rid of my armor and put it back in there and put my own clothes back on. The porta cabin was locked, and they took the key, so I couldn't get in there. So I went like, what am I going to do now? So I took all the stuff off, put it underneath the porta cabin. But here I am, white boots, a black leotard, and a white helmet, because the helmet was something that you had to really look after. If something would happen to it, you would be in trouble. So here I am with the helmet under my arm, white boots, and in a black leotard, walking down the road. What was about a half an hour walk to the main road, through this forest that was getting darker and darker and colder and colder. And anyway, I made it to the main road. Here I am trying to hitchhike back to the hotel. And so I put my thumb, there's a car coming towards me, I put my thumb up. And this car comes right at me and then made a really wide turn around me and just kept on going. Because they saw this idiot standing there with a white helmet and white boots and a black thing. They went like, what the hell is this? Anyway, every car was almost the same thing. They were avoiding me. They just carried on, or they put their foot down and they actually accelerated away. So I went like, well, this is not going to happen. So I started walking, and meanwhile, putting my thumb up, hoping that somebody would stop. And finally, this car stopped, and it happened to be the receptionist in my hotel.
Oh, wow.
So she knew it was me, and she stopped. She took me back to the hotel. Cut a long story, I went to bed, and next morning I didn't say anything to the stunt guys because didn't want to give them the satisfaction of having me left me there. So, but what I did is I went to the trailer, I went into the porta cabin, and I put on the stormtrooper outfit, because the thing was, when you were a stormtrooper and when they needed stormtroopers, you were waiting till the last minute to put your costume on because it was horrible to wear. And you couldn't sit down or anything like that. But I went into the porta cabin and I put my costume on and went back to the set, because I knew that within like 10, 15 minutes we were going to be needed. And then all the stunt guys said, why did you put your costume on? Why did you put the stormtrooper on? Can't you wait? And I said, no, I'm fine, I'm okay. So anyway, then the call came. We need stormtroopers, so all the stunt guys run into the porta cabin, put the costume on. Then they tried to put their boots on. I nailed them to the floor. so now they can't get the boots on because the nails were like, the really big long ones. But they had to get to the set, so Dave Tomlin was calling for stormtroopers, and then they went, what the fuck are we gonna do? So what they did is they put white socks on and then went on to the set, and this was in the Redwood Forest, and the floor in the Redwood Forest is not fun to walk on in your socks only. So they had to do the scene on their socks because, the boots are white, and so you had to. Anyway, that's how I got them back.
I couldn't help be amused by hearing that. Like, he basically got locked out of the toilet and had to go use a porta potty. That was amusing. It was great. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed regardless. I know this has probably been a little tedious, but put up with it. You guys put up with it, and I'm very thankful that you did, because I wanted to share. I wanted to share the love and the experience. Thank you all. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. What were those other actors' names? I don't have any idea. I entirely forgot the name of the dude that played Moff Gideon. But yeah, thank you all, and I'll see you all in the next. Bye. Bye.